It is 7 o'clock on Monday, December 20th, and we'll call this meeting of the Sault Ste. Marie City Commission to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Gary.
Here.
Commissioner Bauer.
Here.
Commissioner Bospis-Rath. Commissioner Collins.
Here.
Commissioner Miller.
Here.
Commissioner Talentino.
Here.
Commissioner Twardy.
Commissioner Bospis-Rath and Commissioner Twardy both called and said they were unable to make it, so we'd need a motion to excuse.
Motion to excuse. Support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And they are excused. If everybody could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We're going to move right down into proclamations and recognitions, and we've got a lot of people here, so who would like to go first? Captain Larson.
Didn't give him a chance to respond.
Whoops. For those who can't see, we have a lot of support here in the audience, and begs the question if they're happy for you or they want to make sure you're leaving. Unfortunately, the chief wasn't able to make it here tonight because he is ill. So, this is a proclamation from the city of Sault Ste. Marie. Congratulations, Captain John Larson, on your retirement. Whereas on behalf of the City Commission, staff, and the citizens of Sault Ste. Marie, we would like to extend our congratulations to Captain John Larson on his retirement and thank him for his many years of service to the City of Sault Ste. Marie. Whereas Captain Larson has served the City of Sault Ste. Marie Police Department for 27 years. Whereas in addition to the position of captain, Larson served as auxiliary coordinator, patrol officer, and a detective with both the SANE and Trident narcotics teams. Larson helped create the Trident team and was its first team leader. Whereas Captain Larson was instrumental and in many ways responsible for the progression of Sioux PD to a modern-day police department, practices and projects such as digital retention, digital workflow, and body-worn cameras were developed and implemented under Larson's leadership. Whereas Captain Larson led by a strong, calm demeanor, it is considered to be a mentor to many current and past Sioux PD staff members. Whereas Captain Larson was a fine example of law enforcement officer, dedicated to his community, dedicated to his team and his family. Furthermore, I, Mayor Don Gary, on behalf of the City Commission and the citizens of Sault Ste. Marie, hereby congratulate you on your retirement and offer our thanks and appreciation for all you have done for our community. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Sault Ste. Marie to be affixed this 20th day of December, 2021.
I'll go around and take everybody.
All right, go around and calm he was. He didn't have any words.
The legs stick to here, right? Yeah, the legs stick to here.
If we could have Sergeant Derek Odell come forward, please. I have a proclamation. Congratulations, Sergeant Derek Odell, on your retirement. Whereas on behalf of the City Commission, staff, and citizens of Sault Ste. Marie, we would like to extend our, this is kind of awkward, isn't it? Extend our congratulations to Sergeant Derek Odell on his retirement and thank him for his many years of service to the City of Sault Ste. Marie. Whereas Sergeant Odell served with the Sault Ste. Marie Police Department for 25 years. Whereas in addition to the position of sergeant, Odell served as both a firearms range instructor, a firearms armorer, and a detective assigned to the same narcotics team. Whereas Sergeant Odell is known for his calm, even keel, and fair demeanor, Odell was always able to bring light to any situation with a great sense of humor. Whereas Sergeant Odell was a fine example of law enforcement officer dedicated to his community, his team, and his family. Odell is considered a mentor to many current and past Sioux PD staff members. Furthermore, I, Mayor Don Gary, on behalf of the City Commission and the citizens of Sault Ste. Marie, hereby congratulate you on your retirement and offer our thanks and appreciation for all you have done for our community. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Sault Ste. Marie to be affixed this 20th day of December, 2021.
Any words from you? No, thank you very much. Enjoy yourself.
Thank you both very much for your service, and of course, thanks to the rest of the police department and fire departments for your service, and thanks for the good turnout for a very good occasion. Happy retirement. Huh? Yeah. 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 Certainly hard to see so much talent retire, but we wish them luck, and they've certainly deserved it. We're moving on into item C, which is public comment. Is there anybody left in the audience that would like to make any comments on any of our scheduled agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move into item D, consent agenda. Deputy City Manager Robin Troyer.
Thank you, Mayor. Under the consent agenda, 1, approval of the City Commission meeting minutes of December 6, 2021. Item 2, acceptance of the Local Officers Compensation Commission meeting minutes of December 8, 2021. Item 3, acceptance of the Police Command PEHP Board meeting minutes of December 8, 2021. Item 4, acceptance of the Police and Fire Pension Board meeting minutes of November 10, 2021. Item 5, acceptance of the Sault Ste. Marie Housing Commission meeting minutes of September 16, 2021 and October 21, 2021. Item 6 is confirmation of mayor's appointment to the Planning Commission. Item 7 is authorization to apply for a Michigan Council for Arts and Culture Affairs fiscal year 2022 mini grant. And item 8 is approval of the consent agenda items as presented.
Thank you very much, Deputy City Manager. Would anybody like any item removed from the agenda for individual consideration or have any other questions? Commissioner Talentino, would you like to make a motion?
Sure, Your Honor. Motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on into E, special orders of business. City Manager Chapman, who might be a little raspy tonight.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up first is a request from the Local Officers Compensation Commission for a pay increase for the mayor and city commissioners. This is a biannual request. It comes in every odd year. There is no vote required. The 2% will take effect automatically. If the commission would like to do something else, it would need to be in effect by 2/3 of vote, which we do have enough members here tonight.
Thank you, City Manager. And as you can see in the memo, it's been kind of tradition that the City Manager or the City Commission has rejected the respective increases, but we'll open that up to the commission. Commissioner Bauer.
Yes, I move that we reject that pay increase.
Support.
Been moved and supported. We reject the pay increase. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you very much. Special orders of business number 2, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is the annual audit presentation. Tonight we have Finance Director Collins and our representative from Anderson Tackman. Doug Wilton, thank you very much. That will walk you through the audit and give you a brief presentation on the process and where we're at. So I will turn it over to Doug.
Good evening, Doug.
Hello. Good evening. Thank you for the introduction. As I said, my name is Doug Welton, here with Anderson Tackman, present the June 30, 2021 audit. In front of you, you have some graphs. Am I going to do this on the TV, or is this going to click through?
Yep.
Just.
Bonnie, if you want, she'll, there you go.
Oh, okay.
And then you can flip through.
All right, so this is in front of you guys as well, printed, but also will be on the screen. First and foremost, I want to talk about the audit opinion.
Doug, yes, please,
sorry.
for the audience at home, if you speak into the microphone.
First and foremost, I'd like to talk about the audit opinion. So the audit opinion is the primary function of why you get an audit. There are 3 forms of audit opinion. There is a disclaimer of opinion, which would mean what it sounds like. We would refuse to issue an opinion because we feel the financial statements were inaccurate or misleading in some respect. A modified opinion, which would mean we would agree with the financial statements in all respects except for a particular item or a couple of particular items. Or an unmodified opinion, which means that we find the financial statements are true and accurate in all material respects. And an unmodified opinion is the opinion that the city received, and again, that is the highest form of audit opinion, which means that we feel the financial statements are true and accurate in all material respects. And then what I'm going to go through is a few slides that just highlight some changes over the years. Stop me if you guys have any questions along the way. All right, the first slide that we have is the assets and deferred outflows for a 2-year comparison, 21, 2020. And this is a statement of deposition. So this is everything in the city combined down to one financial statement. Overall, we can see that cash and equivalents unrestricted went down about 1.3 million, whereas cash restricted went up about 2.5 million. So overall, we saw about a $1.2 million increase in cash at the year end, although the vast majority of this is now restricted comparatively to the prior year. And that means we have money in for grants or projects that are pre-earmarked for these projects. Otherwise, investments essentially overall went down about 85,000. And again, you see kind of a little bit of a reduction in unrestricted investments and an increase of restricted investments, but overall investments went down around 85,000 from the prior period. And then we can see accounts receivable went down about 150,000. This line item is actually a combination of a few different line items. It's both accounts receivable, interest receivable, and taxes receivable, but the largest of which is accounts receivable. And then the next item is due from governments, and this is one of the largest swings you'll see. It went up about $1.7 million. So this includes our due from the federal government, due from the state government. The largest increase is related to the Capital Projects Fund in the current year. It went to a little bit over $1 million in receivables as comparatively to about $200,000. So about an $800,000 increase. This primarily relates to a $500,000 receivable we had at year end for the special litigation draw related to the Freshwater Research Center and the Carbide Dock restoration. And there was also an additional $250,000 on the build grant also in relation to that project. So that's where we're seeing this large jump. And that happens in years where you have federally or state-funded capital projects. You'll usually end up with large receivables. Also, the road contingency in the prior year went from $148,000 to $945,000, and then just over $800,000 of this relates to the placemaking project. So again, another large capital project funded by state and federal grants. Overall, inventories a slight increase of about 110,000, and this is pretty much entirely an increase in the equipment and stock fund inventory levels. Prepaids down slightly, and this has to do with a couple prepaid projects that were on the books last year that just due to timing were not on there this year. That's very normal to see a little fluctuation within that. Overall, we see net capital assets, it went down about 1.4 million. From a governmental perspective, this related to an increase of $6.2 million in new assets added to the books for depreciation. Of this, 2.4 million was prior year's construction in progress that moved to completed assets in the current year. And then $3.5 million in depreciable expenses in the current period. So overall, governmental assets went up about $330,000, whereas business-type assets, with an addition of 1.3 million and a reclass of a little bit over 900,000 from construction in progress, as well as a little bit over $2 million in depreciation, led to a $1.7 million drop in enterprise-type assets. So that's primarily water, sewer, and so forth. And that's mostly just the standard depreciation over the asset lives. Deferred inflows of items, we see a slight decrease in this, and primarily this is bond items which amortize over the lifetime of the bond, and then items related to the pension and OPEB. And if you look at your, I don't know if you have the bound copies, but in the bound audit report on page 56 and 61, there's a full detail of the OPEB and pension items that make this up. And those will change year to year depending upon the actuarial study, how the market does comparatively to expectations, and so forth. Any questions on those items? All right. Now, if we move on to the next slide, again, we're still looking at the statement of assets, or a statement which represents the entirety of the city combined down to one statement. But now we're looking at the liabilities and deferred inflows. We can see accounts payable, large jump here from about 400,000 to 1.6 million. And again, we see some large jumps. The general fund, the largest, jumped about 72,000 in relation to a 2020 MISTA fee that was outstanding at year end. But the real primary drivers behind this is the road contingency fund and the capital projects funds, with 371,000 and 656,000 in accounts payable year end. And again, these both relate to outstanding capital projects that were going on at year end. So again, the placemaking project, as well as the Freshwater Research Institute, I can't remember the exact acronym. And again, you would expect to see these in years with capital projects that aren't ended at year end, so you'll have some timing issues there. Accrued liabilities, we see a little bit of a jump, but a little over 100,000, and this has to do with year-end timing of payroll as comparatively to financial close. Again, this one will fluctuate year to year depending upon payroll cycles. Accrued interest payable, we see a slight reduction. This is what we would expect in years that we didn't take on a lot of new debt or large new debt. Some of the larger items are starting to dwindle down, so the interest payments on those are going up or down. So I expect this item to change as the city takes out more debt over the years. Installment loans, we see a $600,000 increase here. And this primarily has to do with 2 new installment loans. 2 new loans were taken out in the current year. A brownfield loan and an equipment loan, altogether about $700,000. The next item we have is bonds payable. This is down about 3.1 million, and this is entirely related to paying the principal balances on our outstanding debt. No new bonds in the current year. Compensated absences, we see a little bit over $210,000 increase here. This primarily has to do with how we're acknowledging deferred or compensated absences in the evaluation of the vacation liability in association with GASB 16. There was a little bit of a reevaluation this year, caused it to jump a little bit in that respect. Net pension liability, overall, it's down about $871,000 from the previous period. In relation to the MERS pension, it went down $443,000, and the police and fire pension went down $439,000. Deferred outflows of resources went up about $1.4 million, and this, again, relates primarily to the pension and OPEB items. The primary driver was the MERS pension change. The deferred inflows in relation to Expenditures and investment activities went up about $1 million in and of themselves. And in that means the actuaries project this will happen. If it doesn't, they take that, what doesn't happen, the difference, and they amortize it over a 5-year period to try and what they'll call smooth the effect of these items. So that's where these deferred inflows and outflows come from. And again, these will fluctuate year to year depending upon market conditions and so forth. Any questions on these items? All right, the next item we have is still the statement of net position, but now we're looking at the components of net position. So net position is you take all the assets, you minus the liabilities, and what you're left with is net position. Now we can see the first and largest component in net invested in capital assets. So this is all of our current capital assets, net of depreciation, minus any outstanding debt we have on them. In the current year, we can see that this rose about $970,000, and this was a relationship to assets actually reducing by $1.4 million, but the outstanding debt on them reducing by about 2.6, so the net effect was a slight gain. Restricted assets jumped. This correlates entirely to the cash and investment restricted position that we talked about on the first page. And then unrestricted, we see a slight decrease, but this is really related to the increase in restricted and net invested in capital asset. Overall, the entire net position went up by a little over $2 million. Any questions on this item? All right, now we are looking at governmental funds. Overall, we see that there was a slight decrease in taxable revenue from the previous year, a little bit under $160,000. And this primarily relates to, in the prior year, or in the current year, we had a larger than average tax refund expenditure, as well as a couple drops in PILT payments. But the vast majority of the difference is primarily related to an increase in refund expenditures. Special assessments, we're looking at about the same. Federal sources, we see a rather large increase. And this primarily relates to new CARES Act funding, as well as the placemaking grant coming through in the current year. And if you have your bound reports on page 91, there's what's called the CFA Schedule of Federal Awards, and it will break down all of the federal grant expenditures in the current year by grant. State sources, nearly identical to the prior period. I mean, this has fluctuated between some grants within the year, but overall, we've stayed pretty steady with that from the prior year. Local sources, we saw a bit of an increase. The largest individual increase in this related to a county payment for ambulance operations in the current year. Fines and fees, we see a slight decrease. Charges for service, we see about a $275,000 increase from the previous period. Two of the larger items on this were $250,000 jump from the prior period of Ani Osborne camping fees, which I would assume primarily relates to some COVID closures as well as other items moving into this year. And then a $60,000 increase with a new revenue related to marijuana facility permit fees. Rental revenues, nearly the same, slightly down. And the items that are down primarily are related to reductions in the Carbide Dock Valley Camp rental expenditures, which I presume have to do with the construction that's happening in that area. Interest earnings, we are down quite a bit from the previous year. A lot of this has to do with a few CD closings in the prior year, as well as a few reductions in interest earnings that were noted on trusts in the prior period. Other revenues, up slightly in the current year. Overall, in the governmental funds, we're $775,000 higher than the previous period in total revenues. Any questions on this item? All right, so now in the next slide, we are looking at the 2-year comparison of governmental funds, but now we're looking at the expenditure side. Legislative, nearly the same. General government, we saw a decrease of about $600,000. Part of this has to do with a reclass of cemetery operations out of general government under public works, and a drop in attorney fees in association with general government of a little bit over $330,000 from the previous period. Public safety, we saw about a $280,000 increase just below. This related to a $97,000 increase in general fund expenditures fire expenditures within the general fund, and a $177,000 increase in police expenditures within the general fund. Public Works, we saw a decrease of about $332,000. This is primarily eaten up by the 202 and 203 fund, or the local and major street funds, reduction in Act 51 related expenditures. Health and welfare expenditures are nearly the same. Recreation and culture down slightly, about 130. Capital outlay was up about 825,000, and this really again has to do with what I've been harping on from the capital projects, the placemaking grants, the carbide dock work, the purchase of a new fire truck, other equipment and renovations throughout the year. We saw a lot of activity there. Overall, that went up about $828,000 from the prior year. Debt service, this is payment of our debts, nearly the same as the previous period. And other expenditures, we saw a decrease of about $630,000, and they're primarily related to classifications within the capital projects fund comparatively to the prior year. Overall, we saw about a $643,000 decrease in expenditures over the previous period in our governmental funds. So within the 2-year period, we saw a $775,000 increase in revenues and a $643,000 decrease in expenditures. So that's always a nice, healthy thing to see. Any questions on this item? All right. Now, if we move on to our next slide, we are looking at a 2-year comparison of just the water sewer fund now. On this, you can see the charges for services up nominally, less than 1%. Other revenues, again, up pretty nominally, up about $18,000 the previous year, and interest income down about $49,000. Overall, we saw just under a $15,000 increase in operational revenues of the water sewer fund. Any questions on these items? And then overall, change the slide here. The next slide we're looking at now is, again, the water sewer fund 2-year comparative. As you can see, generally, essentially pretty consistent to the prior year. We saw a slight decrease in salaries and wages. I believe this had to do with some staffing and gapping in that. But overall, we saw about a $140,000 decrease in expenditures in the water sewer fund from the previous year. So again, we're seeing a revenue increase overall comparatively to an expenditure decrease within the fund. So that's always something we like to see. Any questions on these items individually? All right, so if we move on to the next slide, now we're looking at the general fund balance. So the general fund is a primary operating fund of the government. In the fund balance, again, like I was saying with that position, we take all of our assets minus our liabilities, fund balance is what we're left with. So in a year we make more money than we expend, we would expect fund balance to grow. Conversely, a year we spend more than we make, we would expect fund balance to shrink. Overall, we saw about a million, well, we'll say a little bit over $1 million in an increase from the previous period. And the current year balance is above the 5-year average, which is about $2.8 million. But I think the bigger statistic here is the GAO suggests having, Government Officers Association, suggests having about a 20% fund balance to year-to-date expenditures. We're currently sitting at about 26.7%, so I think that's a very healthy fund balance to expenditure ratio in that respect. We don't like to weigh our own opinion on what is there, so that's why we quote them. Any questions on this item? All right. The next slide we have here is a comparative of the taxable values across 4 different categories. Overall, we see the largest jump is in the residential agriculture category of about 2.3% from the previous year. The next biggest being commercial of just over 1%. Otherwise, the other growth is a little bit below 1%. Overall, I mean, this is a fairly good graph. I mean, you don't expect to see property values climb that drastically unless there's some significant investments. But they're tracking upwards, so that is a good thing because it's the #1 basis of how you're funded on your property tax level. So, any questions on this item? All right, and now the last slide, I promise. It's the revenue sharing comparative over 10 years. And we just do this to track what the state has given historically. And as you can see, it's been on the rise of late. We saw about a $230,000 increase from the previous period and projected to be a rise again moving into next year. Now, state revenue sharing is up to the state, well, kind of. So I can't guarantee this, but it's always a healthy sign to see that it's been continuing on in that respect. Any questions on this item? Then I wanted to open to the board if you had any open questions for me.
Any questions for Doug? You left us speechless, I guess, so Commissioner
I
Bauer.
actually have a few questions,
All right.
and a couple of comments as well. My first question is that considering that the expenditures have been down this year for the water and sewer, does that mean that we could conceivably lower the water and sewer rates next year?
That's a management decision. I am not going to weigh in on what you set fees at.
Brian?
Could you? Yes. But there's a lot of different things to take into account when you're having that discussion. Future outlay for the wastewater treatment plant and the water treatment plant. I wouldn't typically recommend a rate increase unless directed by the commission. It's easier to go up incrementally and then kind of have this bouncing back and forward. We're good right now, but we still have a lot of work to do within both our plants and the utilities underground. So I would hate to say, yes, you could probably decrease them right now because there's always projects to do. And what we're seeing right now with the increase in the cost of those projects compared to a year ago, you know, that it may behoove us not to decrease the rates. Just first blush, kind of what my history and my background have told me. But again, if the commission so choose to.
And mainly failure to, or not failure, but if we decline to decrease those rates this year, then the future increase, which is inevitable, will not be as bad.
Correct. No, if you decrease it this year, and if you have a future increase, it could be even more.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, yeah.
It wouldn't be, that the future increase, which is almost inevitable, would not be as bad if we decline to decrease this time.
Correct. So from a community standpoint, I think
And the
it's more-
amount was negligible anyway,
Right.
somewhat.
I think it's more palatable, smaller increases instead of not increasing it, and then all of a sudden you have a 20-30% rate increase. Those ones don't typically look good on the front page news, but I think we've been doing really good on keeping a steady pace in rate increases. We're not, in my opinion, overly heavy on the increase. We're very cognizant on what our operations are, what our needs are, and what our capital is moving forward too, so.
Yeah, I would like to congratulate you, Brian, you know, running the show and everything, that our revenues are up and our expenditures are down, and we get a new fire engine and some new equipment here and there. I mean, you know, it's not like we're that tight that we're not making progress. We are making progress, and fiscally, we look pretty good. And here's a question that Bill Lynn used to ask every year. So since nobody else had any questions, I'll ask it. And that is, if you were a teacher and you were grading the city, you know, A, B, C, D, where do you think where would our grade lie financially?
I think that you guys have very adequate reserves. I believe that you're fiscally responsible in what you guys are purchasing and how you're going about it. You seem to have proper procedures and protocols in place. I get this question a lot, believe it or not, actually. We have a very defined answer. It's a B+. No, can always do better. No, truly, I think you guys are doing well. I think, you know, an A- type range, you have a very good, there are things you can work on. There's things people always can work on, obviously. But overall, I think you have, you know, like you were saying, it's a good year fiscally. It looks good. We've reduced expenditures. We've increased some revenue sources. I think that the reserves are important to be cognizant of, particularly to your comment of, capital improvements. Capital improvements can be extremely expensive in some respects. I mean, particularly when you're talking, water, sewer. I mean, I've seen $100 million water sewer projects and not in enormous, huge, it's not just Metro Detroit that can somehow rack that bill up. So I think you guys are doing well, and I would give you a B+, A- type range from the perspective of proper controls, proper procedures, fiscally responsible, and, quality reserves in the respect. I hope that answers that.
Yeah, that answers that. 26% in reserve, that's pretty good. Thank you.
Good questions, Commissioner. Anybody else? I just have a couple comments, and I think Ray covered most of them, but to look at an audit where the revenues are up and expenses are down and our net position's up and we met our fund balance required ratios, I think is great. This is Brian's second year here. And so big transition there. Also, we had the odd year of COVID, which we were right in the height of it when this year started. We've got a lot of new department people, so pretty proud of the job that the administration did. So kudos to Brian and Robin, and especially to Kristen Collins, the finance director, treasurer. Great job as always. And I know that probably most of us always go to the letter to the management in the back to make sure that you didn't have any issues or problems, and you never do, and there were no comments, and we appreciate seeing that. That's great. So thank you very much to the admin and the staff, and thank you to you, Doug, for your thorough presentation. So.
Well, thank you again, and if you guys should come up with any questions or items after the fact, please feel free to reach out to our office for me. Chris has my email and phone number, so if you do, feel free. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. So we need a motion to accept the audit. Commissioner Bauer, since you were...
So moved that we accept the audit from Anderson Tackman.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? We'll do a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Mayor Gary.
Yes. Great job. Thank you very much. Well, moving down into G, business items. City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up first for commission consideration is a request to award a bid for the water treatment facility climate controls to Air and Energy Consulting. Given the age of the water treatment plant, everything HVAC related is kind of on its last leg here. Water Director Twos put out some bids and worked with some consultants to figure out what the problems were, and they came up with the plan. We originally had budgeted, I think, about $90,000 for this particular project, and the bid that we are presenting to you came in at about $47,400. So it's going to update the boiler system, the air conditioning system, the humidifiers, the dehumidifiers, kind of the whole kit and caboodle around the HVAC system. If you ask him right now, he's probably more comfortable outside because the system's not working and it's like a sauna in there. So we would look for a motion to award the bid to Air and Energy Consulting Incorporated.
Thank you, City Manager. Any questions for the City Manager or Kirk? Commissioner Miller.
I'm just reading here, it says over time, the system was neglected and is no longer able to control the climate. What did we do to neglect it? What didn't we do right? Is it just old, or did we do something to it?
It's old and we didn't do anything to it. It's kind of what it is. Not that we did anything to it, it's that we didn't keep up on it. So it's just like any piece of infrastructure we have, whether it be a road, a sidewalk, or a component in one of our facilities. They have a useful life, they age out, and if you're not maintaining the equipment or replacing components of that equipment, you get into these situations.
So what will this company do then?
The company will come in within the proposals, kind of the scope of services here. They're going to put in new controls for the HVAC system, They will replace some wiring, they will replace some, oh, I'm sorry. Director Twos, you want to come up here, please? Why don't you just give a rundown of the project really quick?
Thank you.
Yeah, so the biggest thing that they're gonna do is replace the controls. Right now, they're pneumatic controls. We're gonna go to digital controls. They'll save on air compressor, so that saves on energy. That's huge. It's gonna automate the system so that we can run it energy efficient, kind of like your thermostat at your house where, you know, it shuts off at night, turns on in the day, things like that. Controls that we don't have at the moment. So it's a complete update of all those components, and we're gonna move forward from there.
And then we don't neglect it anymore? It's not neglected?
Yes, we'll keep up on the maintenance of this one a little better.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Bauer?
It's actually less of a question and more of a favor from the city manager, if you could. What I would have liked here is to see the other proposals that were rejected. I know that we are obligated to go with the low bid, and I don't have a problem with that. But considering that all three bidders were using Albert Heating and Cooling as the subcontractor, I really would have liked to have seen how that shook out, you know, what their proposals were actually like. Were they all offering the same thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're not getting that because all we're getting is the winning bid, and I would have liked to have seen more information. Not that it would have changed my vote any, but just from a personal information standpoint, so we're more educated on, you know, what is actually going on in the process. That's number one. Number two is, I guess my question is, and maybe you might have this information at your fingertips and maybe not, but I was just wondering, you know, how long it's gonna take. I would assume this is going to pay for itself in saved fuel cost, et cetera. And I was wondering, you know, how long approximately that would take to play out, how much money we would be saving likely over the course of a year, over the course of 2 years, et cetera.
Mr. Twos, any comments on that?
No, we haven't looked into that. I know that we've reached out to a local energy specialist for some rebates on certain items, and those may be available for this project, but just the air compressor alone not running consistently as it does now will be, you know, savings enough. Probably, you know, I'd say within 2 years we'd see significant savings over what we have right now.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kirk.
Good questions, Commissioner. Anybody else have any other questions? Commissioner Collins, would you like to make a motion?
Sure. Motion to award the bid for the water treatment facility climate controls to Air and Energy Consulting, Inc.
Support?
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Mayor Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. G, business items number 2, city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request for a budget amendment related to a second heart monitor that we purchased. There wasn't a budget amendment included in the last item. It was brought to the commission, I believe during the October meetings, the first one there. So we would look for a motion to authorize the budget amendment in the amount of $37,200.
Any questions for city manager? Probably be in our next year audit report, eh, Doug? Commissioner Miller, would you like to make that motion?
Thank you, Your Honor. Authorize a budget amendment in the amount of $37,200 to complete the purchase of a heart monitor authorized for purchase on October 4th, 2021 by the commission.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Mayor Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. Under G, business items number 3, city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next is a discussion consideration regarding the polar sign policy and fees. A few of the commission members have been reached out by some of the major users at the Polar facility, including the Eagles, maybe Hiawatha. They are concerned about a new fee, and I quote, "new fees." The fees have been a part of the policy ever since the policy was created, when the sign was installed. The issue was that the fees were never being assessed to the users. So for example, there's a $60 weekly charge for an events ad. In this case, the Eagles, if they had a game on a Friday or Saturday night, it would run from, I believe, the Friday or the Monday before to the Monday after for $60 a week. As the Parks Department kind of retired out and we had some changes, including the staff overseeing certain processing and the billing processes, these issues kind of cropped up. So staff has been following the policy as been approved by the commission in years prior. Mayor Jerry did ask that this topic be placed on the agenda tonight so we can kind of talk about it. The commission has a couple different options they would like. They can suspend it. We could bring something back to you. We can change the fee. It's kind of a few different options that we can or how we can handle this one, depending on the direction and what the commission wants to do.
Thanks, City Manager, and I did ask him to put this on the agenda because I don't know if everybody else did, but I got some calls from a user at least, and they had previously, as Brian had summed up, they had previously, when they rented a lot of ice and they had a game on, say, Friday night, they were allowed to have a notification on the sign that there was a game there, and I think that in turn helps increase their attendance, and we get a ding per ticket surcharge. You know, we still get that, correct? So we get a surcharge per ticket, so we are making more money. So if they have better attendance, certainly our surcharge will be increased. And based on the use of ICE and funding and their loyalty, I think it's only, I thought it would be fair that we consider if a policy of, you know, if they're renting the ice, then we could certainly advertise their games. But up to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Collins.
Well, if you're talking about a user that, something like the Eagles, where they're using the ice all the time in their games, I don't think we change the policy. We can just exempt them from the policy, correct?
That's an option, yes.
I mean, because the policy is really designed for more of, like, if somebody, sorry, am I not?
She wasn't picking you up.
Sorry. I mean, the policy is really designed for individuals that aren't using the ice all the time, or like one-time type of things, right? Like a community event, somebody's putting on a, I don't know, a circus over the weekend during the summer, and it's gonna be there, right? So they're gonna pay $60, or somebody wants to put a happy birthday sign out there, and it's gonna be $20. But for somebody like the Sioux Eagles, who's putting that kind of money into renting the ice, and also we know that the money from those tickets are coming back to us as well, at least a portion of them, I would just make them exempt from the policy. And then if we have other users that are doing the same type of, you know, business with the Polar, we can look at exempting them as well.
And I would say we have 5 major users: the Eagles, Hiawatha Skating Club. They have 2 events a year. Sioux Michigan Hockey.
You have men's leagues, you have a variety of major users that specialize.
Yeah,
Well,
and the ones that actually hold events would probably be the Eagles, Hiawatha, and, what'd you say, Sioux Indians again?
Sioux Michigan Hockey.
Sioux Michigan, yeah.
But if you look at the ice usage that they're renting, nobody even comes close to the Eagles though. I mean,
Oh.
even men's league's only one night a week now.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just how, when we internally discuss our major users, those are the ones we typically refer to. Because Hiawatha, they may not be 7 days a week or 6 days a week, but they're still every weekend from as soon as we lay the ice down to February-ish. somewhere
Have
around
we
there.
ever charged any of them prior to this?
No, probably not. Not a lot. And that's why you can say it's not a loss of money because we haven't charged it, so we never really got it.
Yeah, I don't really want to increase any fees to anybody, especially if you're talking about, I guess my question would be though is, who gets priority over the sign if we're not charging anybody for it?
Well, the sign it's an electronic sign, so it kind of rolls different messages. So you could have one for an Eagles game, you can have one followed by a Hiawatha event, and then one followed by happy birthday, Commissioner Collins, if you wanted to. So it's not necessarily that it's a solid letter type of message board. It's an electronic one. So I mean, you don't have to prioritize the message itself.
Have we ever done a happy birthday for anybody? Have we ever done that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see charging for the happy birthday thing, right? But as far as the rest of it, if we've never charged Hiawatha or the Sioux Eagles or anything, I don't see any reason to start charging them now. That's my opinion. So,
Any other? Commissioner Collins, you done?
I guess I'm done. Until somebody else says, until somebody else says
For
something.
now.
Yeah, for now.
All right. Commissioner Talentino?
Thank you, Your Honor. I see Commissioner Collins' point, and I agree with him. I just don't want this to turn into just being whoever rents ice gets to utilize the sign. You know, this is a community building, this is a community-owned sign, so to speak. If you want to put a birthday on there for 20 or a community event for 60, I still think that's a great, you know, bang for the buck, so to speak. You're not going to put it in the newspaper for that or any other types of media besides social media, which you can do it yourself. I think it's a great idea, what Commissioner Collins has brought up. I think it's definitely something we as a commission should take a look at. I just don't want it to be just solely user sign. That's my only part that I want to see through in this whole discussion. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Mailer, did you have any?
Well, I agree with everyone, but these larger organizations like the Eagles and Hiawatha Skating Club, they've been there for years, they've been using the ice for years, and they've never been charged before, I don't think they should be charged now. Things like happy birthday, happy anniversary, whatever, those things should be charged for, so I don't know. If we exempt those people, we would be exempt those organizations, or if we change the policy completely. Either one, but I'm in favor as long as like Eagles and Hiawatha and Sioux Michigan Hockey, so they don't get charged for it. Somebody called me from the Hiawatha Skating Club. They were doing a charity event. Come down and watch our show for canned goods. The city wanted $60. City wanted $60 to put it on the sign. They're trying to raise money to help the community. So I mean, I don't think that was right.
So realistically, what we can do, because it sounds like the commission is in favor of a change, we don't want to change the policy itself per se, because it does dictate the process in which the messages come in and who they're received by and the verbiage and stuff like that. But what we can add under Part 1, Section 6, fees for events are as follows and must be paid in advance with application. You got A, B. We could just simply add a C and put exempt groups, and we can list possibly your current 3 major users. One of the other things that we're working on as well is a agreement for future large users in case we get another 1 or 2 that come in. And our intention is to work out the fees for the signs in those agreements as well. But for the sake of change right now, if the commission wants to, I would add on a C, exempt groups, and then list those groups that you want added on there so that it's clear. So that way, again, we're not interpreting who's using more ice, who's using less ice, things of that nature. If you have specific groups you want to exempt, I would say them specifically.
Commissioner Miller, you had a question?
On the flip side of that coin, though, kudos to the staff that was trying to charge these fees, because they were just doing what they were supposed to be doing all along. So they didn't do anything wrong, and I know a couple of them took the brunt of it kind of bad with some nasty phone calls and some, verbal. That should never have happened, because they're just doing what they were supposed to be doing anyway. The fact that staff didn't charge them before, is not the current staff's fault, so.
And I just want to say too, the fees alone for the Eagles, just so you have an understanding of the fiscal impact too, had the fees been assessed for the Eagles in their current schedule, it'd been about 9,000. Is that what we figured out at one point? 8,000, 9,000 for the Eagles for the year? Yeah, about $8,000, $9,000 for the Eagles alone, just for their one season.
Sign?
Yeah, because they have sometimes 2 games a week throughout their whole season. That would be $60 a game, assuming they're doing the week-long fee.
That math doesn't
Commissioner
sound correct, though.
Talentino?
I figured about $2,000. I figured it would add about $2,000.
Maybe it was everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Together, maybe.
don't see that as one.
Is that what it was?
Sure. So I'll give the finance director has a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
If a certain user group, which has a contract, could just have a modification to that contract, and then it would be clear to everyone. And then on the user fee schedule, it just says unless exempted by contract agreement.
Either or.
That
works.
way you wouldn't have to list, because I think, I kind of try to avoid listing specific entities as excluded in user fee schedules. We like to portray the user fee schedule as, is for everyone, all users, unless there's some agreement otherwise.
So I would put in, if that's the way the commission wants to go, make a motion to add in C under Part 1, Section 6, and unless exempt by an agreement, and then we'll work out agreements with the major users.
Contract agreement.
Yeah, contract agreement, yeah. And they're small enough, those won't have to come to the commission, so we can enact on them quicker.
Sounds good. Anybody have any questions? Commissioner Talentino?
Just, I should have said this earlier when I had the floor. I mean, I would absolutely love to see this eventually someday just be a sign for the Polar Stadium and its users. I so bad would like to get the sign on the bridge redone and up and going again one day. So we could move this over to that and just have the community building simply be for the community building. So hopefully one of these days we can maybe work on that too.
Very good. Anybody want to make a motion to amend the fee schedule?
I'll make a motion to amend the fee schedule as the city manager has outlined.
Support?
Just
Specifically, what is that?
Specifically,
A little more than
yeah, all right.
Just-
So specifically
a
that
little
is.
more than that.
Well, okay, so I'll make a motion that to the fee schedule we have, item 1, part 1, section 6, there's going to be a letter C that says,
unless exempt.
unless
by-
exempt by contract.
There you go.
Support?
A better rate?
Better.
Commissioner Miller?
And then the folks we're talking about tonight, they're just automatically exempt. They'll get that exemption, like
Well-
now?
We'll work out the agreement quick and we'll be able to hammer it out, yes.
Yeah, you have to put that in everybody's contract then. I
We'll-
mean,
we'll
because
just
if it's
do-
not in the
we'll just
contract, then.
Quick, do one little page addendums to whatever existing contract they have,
Right.
and then they'll just,
But it won't cost them anything, is what I'm saying.
correct.
Great, thanks.
So it's been moved. Has it been supported?
Yep.
Been moved and supported. Any other questions or comments?
Oh, Your Honor.
Got it all? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Mayor Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Under G, business items number 4, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request from the Convention and Visitors Bureau for a proposed grant application for upgrades to the city-owned I-500 grounds facilities. Included in the agenda item are the cost estimates, the design diagram, and the memo with the background on the particular EDA grant, what their costs would be. This particular grant is being requested by CVB. There is no ask from the city. There's no financial commitment. There is a commitment, since it's our property, that we have to sign off that we approve the grant. But there's no dollar commitment to this. Process-wise, moving forward, we would work with the CVB to help them pick an engineer, help them bid out the work, and help them oversee that the work is done correctly. So with us tonight is Linda Hoth and her associate, Mr. Nepper, if they have any further comments on this particular grant.
Thank you, City Manager. Welcome, Linda and Justin.
Yeah, we do have a little bit more information that just came in, so I'm going to let Justin, just so you know, it went up a little bit, but I'll let you tell him.
Good evening, everyone. I had sent to City Manager Chapman, I think around 4 o'clock today. We were waiting on getting the official preliminary engineering report. I had sent a spreadsheet that was attached in the commission packet, I believe, on Friday, but there was just a little bit of investigation ongoing, primarily due to a question that was actually City Manager Chapman asked about a pedestrian bridge that's proposed over the 2 bluffs. and whether or not the budget was sufficient for that. And so the engineer went back and looked at it, and there was a little bit of price increases there, as well as additional increases to inspection fees, engineering fees, administration fees for the grant, and those were all kind of mandated numbers from the Economic Development Administration. So it was in your, I believe in your packet, at a grand total of 2.47 million, and it's currently estimated at 2.565 million. So there's about just under $100,000 increase. So that is the only, I think, request that I would make, is that I believe the recommended motion that we had provided would reflect a total of $2,565,000. And the preliminary engineering report that was sent, we were trying to get it in time for the agenda packet, but that can be something that can be reviewed at you guys' discretion.
And do you have any questions for us? Todd? Yes.
Actually, I'd like to know who's doing the engineering on this at this point.
Right now, it's Linda Bassista did it. She's the only one we could get to do it, because the other people didn't want to do it because then they couldn't bid on it.
Gotcha.
So we had, but it was nice to have a licensed engineer help us get through this. Is there any other questions?
Mr. Talentino has a question.
Mr. Talentino?
How you doing, Linda? Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Hey, I really think this is some great ideas. I really wish can the public view this at all, what you guys want to do here?
Once we get it going, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can put it all together.
We're sitting here right now and we're looking at it on our computers. I think this is a wonderful idea, and I wish you guys totally the best of luck. And
Just pray we can get that 20%.
yeah.
We're working pretty hard on it. We got some really good leads and everything, so.
Good. No, I like your ideas. You know what? As far as the grading of the bluffs themselves, if you only do that, I'm sold. Thank you.
You gonna put them up there?
Commissioner Talentino mentioned it, and there it is. So it's right above, it should be above your head there, Linda. So if you want
There it
to
is.
explain for the audience here and for the audience at home what you're looking at, would be great.
I can't really see it, but hey. Go ahead, Justin.
Okay. I'll do the quick review. So starting closest to the road, the grant is tied to increasing tourism, travel, and recreation. It wasn't allowed to be just used for maintenance issues or specifically to the I-500 race itself, but to the whole site and how the community could benefit from upgrading the entire site for year-round use, for 4 seasons use. So one of the biggest issues, of course, is West 4th Avenue has really been a struggle to drive on unless it's winter and you're going to the I-500, and that's been kind of the sole use for that road. So that's a big one. That's over $600,000 just to repave West 4th Avenue based on our initial cost estimate. The second item is something that the Visitors Bureau was very, I think, forthcoming about and really thinking ahead of the game, was how we could best use the site for the summertime and throughout the seasons, as well as future trail opportunities. So the bluff connector is, right now there's the north bluff, the south bluff, and the road that gets down to the track, and people have to slide down, fall down, climb up. So a pedestrian bridge that straddles that bluff is, I think, around $90,000 currently in the plans, and there's a lot of contingency built in, as well as grading, as Commissioner Talentino said, grading the bluffs to get rid of a lot of the lumps and bumps and challenges, as well as a little bit of terracing that would be on either corner near that bridge that would actually allow for a flat surface, and that serves multiple purposes. One is, of course, to allow people that maybe struggle to stand on the angle all day to have a place where they could even put up a chair or sit down, especially for events that are not the I-500 in the summer. But also because there's some challenges with the stabilization of the slope. So there's work that will be done to help make sure that the slope itself is stable. And then 2 sets of fencing that would wrap around the side of the track that is the most impacted and interfaces with the fan base the most for any event. So that's a pretty big budget item to wrap about half a mile of double fencing. We also have a vendor building that will be usable for not only the I-500, but also for any events that happen up there throughout the year. There was a goal to have multiple other buildings that would really take the place of the tent, the temporary tenting that always has to be placed up there for events, but with budget constraints, we focused in on the most critical, which would be a multi-use building that would house vendors or other activities or events just near the press building, north of the press building. And then a few other items is a trail connector that would actually allow people to hike or bike or walk more safely from the north side of the bluff along the south side of the bluff towards Ashman Creek, which someday may be an area that could be used for multiple trail opportunities. And then, as well as, and I missed this, a small kind of gravel parking lot upgrade, especially in the time of year when the snow is, when the ground is not frozen, it's kind of a mucky mess. So a small gravel parking lot nearest to the press building there is proposed. And I think that kind of summarizes the majority of the projects here. There were a tremendous amount of other kind of hopes and dreams, and we had to really whittle it down to what would be the highest dollar amount, highest impact. And the Visitors Bureau is looking at a 20% grant match that Linda's still working on, and we're hoping that this type of grant project will help really encourage the I-500 committee as well as future users to look at other opportunities to raise money for some of the smaller and more achievable upgrades, new flag poles or a digital scoreboard, things like that. If you have anything to add.
I just want to add to it, too, that this is something that I've always thought about, but it's also an entrance to our city, and if it's cleaned up and looks good, we'll be able to put a nice welcome sign in there or something saying, "Welcome to Sault Ste. Marie." Now when you come down I-75 and you take a look, I mean, it's just a field. It's not mowed, it's not anything. And so maybe at this time we can work on making sure that when somebody enters in our city from that position on that road there, it would look great. What I wanted, my biggest thing was the side of the hill and the walkway and the paved road, because I've been down that road since day one, from the very first day. So it's something that I think that it would be just an enhancement to Sault Ste. Marie. And we can do concerts, we can do all kinds of different things.
Thanks, Justin and Linda. Commissioner Bauer has some questions.
Yeah, just one more question. That is, what's the timetable? That is, when will we know whether or not we're probably going to get that grant?
After the first of the year?
I believe so 2 things. One of the most critical items is the time in which we have to apply. Lee Shuri, who's our contact with the EDA in Chicago, he's on Christmas vacation and he expects the grant application to be there before he gets back. Or else pretty much there's the month of January is the last month to apply for this grant. So I pretty much told him we were going to get this grant in by December 31st, right before the new year. So there's about 4 or 5 documents that if this passes, that Linda and I will work with city administration on to get that, for the co-application, to get that filled in and submitted. For the grant itself, they say it's about a 6-month period from when you apply to when you'll hear. So we're looking at finding out probably by May or June, I would say, and then we'll probably be estimating about a 2-year period. The first year, as usual, would be all the engineering has to be bid out and based on federal grant requirements. So there'd be probably 6 to 8 months of getting the engineering all sorted out, and that would mean that by that time it would be winter 2022, and then 2023 hopefully would be able to do construction, bidding, and secure contractors going into the summer 2023, and maybe by late 2023, early 24, we'd have the project completed if it's funded.
My apologies, I have one more question, sorry. And that question being, is there a possibility of a gray area with this grant? Is this like an all or nothing, or is it possible that we could get some of that money and do some of this project?
Well, we started off at about $4.5 million, and we have cut it back already. Yes, I mean, there's a possibility if we don't get it, that whatever we can cut back, but This is what we've decided that we're going to go forward on. I've already talked to the Great Lakes Sports Commission. They have a grant coming up in January that we can apply for and probably get $150,000 from. I've been working with Senator Schmidt because they've got some dollars coming in too that can go this way. Tourism doesn't get grants. So this was one of these opportunities that we hopped on because, I mean, it's an opportunity we can't pass up. And I want it done by September of 2023. Thank you. Mayor,
other,
Commissioners, thank you all for listening to us tonight.
Any other questions?
So
Oh,
with,
looks like,
Can I say one last thing?
sure.
Thank you to all youth, but I also want to thank, Linda Basista. I want to thank the I-500 board. Jeff Hagan is coming in and giving us some help with this too. And Justin, I said, Debbie in my office and me and whoever else. And I can tell you, Carrie Bradley on the board has been just amazing to get a hold of. So those are the people, and everybody's working together to make this a great place.
And how much have you already spent on this, Linda? Just so people know your
About
commitment.
$10,000.
Okay. Well, thank you. City manager?
all right, so if the commission would like to move forward on this project, there are 3 proposed motions in the memo that came from the CVB. Just to make it easy, if you want, you can approve the motions as presented, because they're all kind of tied in together.
Do we have to change the amount like Justin said, or?
Yeah, you probably should. So it would be, I gotta get the new number,
2.565.
2.565. So motion to approve the motions as presented with the increased budget to 2.565.
I make a
Alright.
motion to approve what the city manager just said.
So you're taking the first motion to approve the application? If you open up.
I am opening up.
But we can do all three.
They're all tied together.
They're all tied together,
Yeah,
do them at once?
you can't not do the first one and then approve the other 2.
Okay.
as I
Right.
said.
All right.
Just approve the 3 as presented with the increase in budget to 2.565.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the 3 as presented with increasing the budget to $2,565,000.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? I have one comment, maybe 2. I just wanted to make a disclosure. I am on the CVB board. It's a volunteer position, and I in no way, shape, or form have any financial interest in this, so certainly will continue to vote on it. And thank you very much to the CVB and to the I-500 and everybody that's involved with this, and to Justin. As Linda said, she's already got over $10,000 invested, and it's a piece of city property, and it's a win-win for us, and no financial obligation to the city taxpayers to improve a property and to make it more usable, so great idea. So roll call vote, please.
Mayor Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins.
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Item H, city manager announcements and updates.
All right, I got a few tonight. I'm trying to get through these. Bonnie, you want to throw my screen up on the TV, please? All right. First and foremost, we are excited to be launching our new city website tonight. Commission may recall that we approved a contract some time ago. Deputy Manager Troyer and her staff, Jennifer Nelson and Erica Gordon, with assistance by Jessica McLean out of the assessor's office, really took this project and kind of carried it forward here. So we had a clean, new, fresh look. There was a lot of back and forth they went through, but this is just our launching point. There will be more services and information added as we move forward. But this was just live today, yesterday, last couple of days. So this is our new website. The commission pictures that we kind of had a bunch of back and forward going on, all set up there. We got our financial information, department contacts, all the information that the citizens would need, code of ordinances, city charter, all that good stuff. So we'll continue to build out more information. I know the customer service reps down in the front office have been looking at different opportunities to add stuff onto the website as well, so is the other department. So this is our new website. We're really excited for it. It's another one of those opportunities to put our best foot forward to any potential developers or residents or whatever the case may be that's looking for information from us. So with that, is there any questions about the website?
I love that it's mobile friendly.
Yep, it's mobile friendly. Yep, it's nice. It's a good addition to us. Attached in my announcements updates is a potential memo of understanding between the city and the Michigan Land Bank Authority. Director Freeman and I have been working on this for the last couple of months here. And basically all this does is just formalize a partnership with the Land Bank Authority to have them help us market and advertise available pieces of property for future development, whether it be commercial, industrial, or residential. There's no costs associated to it. There's no commitments. Just basically saying that we're working together. We have shared interests in redevelopment in the Sioux, and the land bank will assist us in our goals. So I put that in there as just as an item for you to see. We'll be finalizing that in the next couple of weeks and moving forward with it. So last, it's the holidays, so I will be out of the office December 23rd through the 29th. And possibly tomorrow. Am I not in the memo? Oh. Sorry. And with us tonight is our new DDA Development Director, Tony Cutler. Tony started with us about 3 weeks ago. We haven't had a chance to get him into the commission meeting yet, so we just want to make an introduction of him to the commissioners, showing that we hired somebody for the DDA. So the DDA board is excited to have Tony come up, join our team here. He previously worked with Senator Schmidt's office, doing some part-time work there. He's got a couple of business backgrounds from down in the Traverse City area, Petoskey? Boyne City, wasn't even right. Boyne City area. Split the difference. So we're excited and we're happy to have him on board, so.
Looks like he was ready to bounce out of his chair. Did you want to say anything?
Well,
And then the microphone?
Sure, really quickly here. Mr. Mayor and City Manager and Commissioners, really quickly, I'm very excited to be here. I was a city commissioner in East Jordan where I was born and raised. I'm a Lake State grad, worked for Senator Schmidt, worked for Congressman Benishek, worked for Frank Foster. So I've been covering the Sioux really for the last 20 years. I was a freshman in 2001 at Lake State with a degree in finance and economics. So very excited to be here. We had just kind of a minor setback. I had a little surgery my first week or my second week here, and then I'm back. And there will be another surgery in February, but we're gonna just coordinate that with everything that's going on. I do want to make you aware we have a great tradition coming back, which we're revamping. The ball drop is now the anchor drop, and we're going to do that on New Year's Eve. We've got Alta Equipment has donated their lift for us, so I'm just looking for a lift operator. So any of you who'd like to volunteer your time, come and see me. Otherwise, I'll be doing that. And a big thank you to the Convention and Visitors Bureau. They were a donor towards this event, as well as Sioux Co-op Credit Union, $3,000 donation. So a big thanks to Sioux Co-op Credit Union. And Mr. Rambo's class cut our steel for us. If you go to the DDA Facebook page, you'll see an updated picture, and then we're going to get graphics put on it by National Office Products. All of this coming together. It's going to be a great event, so I encourage all of you to come out there New Year's Eve, and streets are going to be closed off. And I signed off, or Tracy helped me while I was laying in a hospital bed to get the street closed. So the great community has been very supportive in my little time getting up here and all that good stuff. So I'm in the middle of buying a house, and we're committed to doing a lot of great things here. I've got a good working relationship with Justin, who I've known in my time working for Senator Schmidt, as well as a lot of community members. So lots of great things going on. I know the commission meetings run long, so I'll just say thank you, and I'm happy to be here, and let me know if you have any questions.
Thanks, Tony. Good to have you. Welcome to the Sioux. Or welcome back to the Sioux, I should say. Anybody have any questions or comments for city manager or Tony? All right, thank you very much. Moving on into item I, which is matters presented by the public. Is there anybody that would like to make any comments at this time? No? All right, moving on to item J, matters presented by the city commission, commissioners. Commissioner Miller.
Just a comment, because this is our last meeting of the year, I just wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, I hope everyone's safe. Have a good time and don't drink and drive, please.
Thanks, Commissioner Miller. Would you like to stand up and showcase your shirt for us?
It was the last meeting of the year, I did a little,
Commissioner Bauer has a holiday tie on too. I tried to find a Christmas tie, which I don't have, and I found out I don't have a LSSU tie either. I don't know.
Oh, now I know
gotta
what to get
update
you
my
for
closet.
Christmas.
Yes. Any other commissioners have any comments? Certainly on behalf of the city commission administration, we'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we will see you in 2022. Hard to believe. So,
It is hard to believe.
Commissioner Collins, would you like to make the final motion of 2021?
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This meeting's adjourned.